The USA is interfering in Canadian election. Here's what they don't want you to know and why it matters more than ever. Hello there, I'm Elena, welcome back to my channel Enough of Propaganda. Please like, subscribe, share my channel, let's make truth available for everyone. I just celebrated recently another anniversary of my arrival into Canada. So I live in Canada for over 20 years and I take very seriously my rights and responsibilities as a citizen of Canada, as well as citizen of Russia. This is why I conduct my research every election by collecting, analyzing, and comparing information on all Canadian parties and their leaders. And this election is no exception. More than that, this time it is happening during an unprovoked economic war with the United States. Trump's attacks on democracy and the rule of law in the USA and globally, the US trade wars with Canada, China, the European Union, and the rest of the world, except for Russia and other dictatorships, and Russia's continuing unprovoked aggression in Ukraine. This is the times we are living in. Canada was not only insulted by the United States and attacked economically, we were literally threatened by American President Donald Trump, who suggested taking away our independence and bending us to his will so we would agree to become the American 51st state. This is why, first time in over 20 years that I've been in Canada, I feel it is more important than ever to stay united, to do the research, and do our best to preserve Canada, its independence, values, and freedom. What I discovered during my research, and I will talk about it a little later, that right now in Canada, there is an influence of foreign country, the United States, in our election by conducting basically political assassination campaign versus one of the candidates of potentially to be a Canadian Prime Minister. And the candidate who is Prime Minister of Canada right now, it's Mark Carney. I will explain you why. I show you the proofs. I prove everything I say. So you're welcome to follow what I did and you'll find out exactly what I found. This is the whole point of the proofs. So it's not somebody have to trust somebody on word. When there are proofs and evidence, you can find it for yourself. And I encourage you to do so. Keep in mind that if I show you Wikipedia pages, this is basically the beginning of research. So I did way deeper research than that. But what I'm showing, it's easy to do. Anybody can do that themselves. I suggest at least starting by reading the Wikipedia pages on the candidates. Practically every candidate has lots of information about his education, career, political stance, and what are they standing for in the election. Several candidates are familiar to me except for conservative and liberal candidates. And I didn't bother to research Mr. Blanchet, if I pronounce his name right, since based on his speeches, he seems to have mistakenly ended up in a debate for the future Prime Minister of Canada rather than a leader of Quebec. It appears he either thinks that Quebec is the only province in Canada, the one and only, or he was simply in the wrong debate. But you are welcome to look into him if you wish. I also watched and verified several different videos and speeches of different candidates. This is a page of Mr. Polyev, if I pronounce his name right. I personally don't see the debates as important or interesting, since there is not enough time for the candidates to say what they actually intend to do. This is why I watched full interviews of some candidates, and I'll provide the best one of Mr. Carney later, and Mr. Polyev you've probably seen as well. Let's get to the point. Disinformation and foreign interference in the Canadian election. Some friends recently sent me 2 articles and a video attacking one of the potential candidates, Mark Carney. Both articles came from media sources like National Post and Financial Post, which is a part of National Post, so basically it's the same source. And another one was Toronto Sun. That was published almost simultaneous, and it was a hit pieces trying to discredit Carney with false accusations. And I will prove you why it is hit pieces and why it is false accusations. This is an article in Financial Post I'm talking about. So all these outlets include Toronto Sun, are owned by Postmedia, a network majorly owned by US-based hedge fund with known connections to the Republican Party of the United States. This is not just a coincidence. This is a targeted political strategy that mirrors United States style election interference tactics. So the first thing you start is from the source. Let's see National Post. Oh, it says it's a Canadian English language broadsheet newspaper, and so on. And the flagship publication of the American-owned Postmedia Network. So you're clicking on Postmedia Network after that. This takes seconds to find out. Postmedia Network Canada Corporation, also known Postmedia News and Postmedia, is an American-owned Canadian-based media conglomerate. It is best known for being the owner of the National Post and the Financial Post. 2/3 or 66% of Postmedia is currently owned by American media conglomerate Chatham Asset Management. And who is Chatham Asset Management? It's an American hedge fund, apparently, in New Jersey, located, United States. According to 2018 article in Fortune, Chatham is known for its close ties to the Republican Party. In October 2016, the New Jersey hedge fund Chatham Asset Management quietly acquired a 2/3 controlling stake in Postmedia, Canada's largest newspaper chain. According to the New York Times, since acquiring Postmedia, Chatham reduced the workforce, closed newspapers across Canada, decreased salaries and benefits, and consolidated editorial operations. And guess what? They owned the Toronto Sun as well as a lot of other newspapers and media sources, from Calgary Herald to Ottawa Citizen to Calgary Sun, Edmonton Sun, Ottawa Sun, The Province, Toronto Sun, Winnipeg Sun, and a lot of other newspapers and tabloids. Include some even little newspapers and somewhere in Canada. This is with ties to the right-wing politics, which you can explore for yourself. I personally was very surprised to know how many of Canadian media, newspapers, tabloids, and even local newspapers owned by the American company and American-owned Postmedia Network, and the basically conglomerate who is controlling and own Postmedia Network. Another interesting discovery. The newspaper National Post was founded by Conrad Black in an attempt to compete with the Globe and Mail. Let's see who is Conrad Black. He is a Canadian citizen, Canadian British writer and former politician, newspaper publisher and convicted fraudster. In 2007, Black was convicted on 3 counts of fraud and 1 count of obstruction of justice in U.S. District Court in Chicago. Despite of appeals, some of his fraud charges stayed. And in the initial verdict, Black was fined $125,000 and sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, serving a total of 37 months, after 2 fraud charges were overturned by the United States Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit, leaving 1 fraud charge and 1 obstruction of justice, and so on. So what Conrad Black has to do with the National Post, beside being a founder? Apparently, he is a still current contributor right now, today. Since we established the background, who are we dealing with, we could read the article and so on. I would really read it closely to learn on this example how to do a research and so on. I will look closely at the author, who is Michael Taube. And there he is. So he's a columnist for 4 publications: National Post, Troy Media, Looney Politics, and Epoch Times. Out of all of them, also he's a former speechwriter for Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, holds a master's degree in comparative politics from London School of Economics in England. So one of the, beside National Post, I know who are Epoch Times. During some Trump previous elections and so on. they not only far-right international multilanguage newspaper and media company, but they basically blocked in several countries for a reason, because they not only took money from Trump to promote his garbage, they lied to people, promote conspiracy theories, and the Epoch Times, media group, news sites, and YouTube channels have promoted conspiracy theories such as QAnon. You can read it longer, but I already know about this. All of this is known to me. And none of this is new. I have lived in the USSR and Russia. I have dealt with Russian propaganda for over 11 years in the foreign countries. The USSR and Russia was fighting the information war with the West for a long time. So all of these techniques known to me. How they manipulate people, how they lie to people, how they present truth as a opinion as a truth, how they manipulate the facts. And we will see on the example of these articles how it's done and video. So far, nothing strikes me as a reliable source, number one. Oh, that Taube in his article posting some opinions of Mark Carney, of some British people, claiming that from the right and from the left, they kind of criticize him, basically claiming that left-leaning politicians in Britain, as well as right-leaning politicians in Britain, didn't like him, quoting Larry Elliott, whoever he is, economics editor for Guardian, saying things like he was strong believer in open market and free trade, and how come this is a bad thing. Yet negatives far overweight the positives. How overweight? What negatives? What you talking exactly about? So this is the outright opinion of the guy who we don't know and have no idea. It was clear Carney considered himself to be the smartest man in the room and wanted to make sure everybody knows it. He was not a man to suffer fools gladly. Let's find out why, if it's even true. While Carney was intellectually self-confident and worked ferociously hard, Elliott noted, to have a central banker's caution when it comes to public statements. We'll find out about that as well. The next article is Howard Levitt. Why wouldn't I not hire Mark Carney? We'll find out who is Levitt a little later, but basically the guy is literally outright publishing a lie. Beside of the same opinion pieces we just seen in National Post, and so on. The worst of it was literally attack on the integrity of the Carney. Had plagiarized portions of his doctoral thesis, a doctorate that was necessary for the balance of his career. So this is outright lie. This is very easy to disprove. Literally very first and very easy research showing that statement from Dr. Margaret Mayer, official fellow economist at Nuffield College and Mark Carney's doctoral supervisor at Oxford. So Mark Carney, unlike any other candidates, he graduated both from Harvard and Oxford, from two colleges in Oxford. This is outstanding, basically, achievement of many people. In 320 years of history of Bank of England, they have never hired non-Brit before Mark Carney. And the statement of the Dr. Margaret Mayer saying that Mark's thesis was evaluated and approved by a faculty committee that saw his work for what it is, an impressive and thoroughly researched analysis that set him apart from his peers. And she said, I believe you are mischaracterizing this work. As an academic of nearly 40 years, I see no evidence of plagiarism of the thesis you cited, nor any unusual academic practices. And so on. You can read it for yourself. I personally fight propaganda for 11 years. If you lie, I'll catch you and expose you and show everyone in the world for who you are, a liar. So this article is a lie and political assassination campaign, which either National Post, Financial Post, and many others. But this is not the end. Toronto Sun went way further than everybody else. the drag out of obscurity the former British Prime Minister Liz Truss. And during the whole 13 minutes of the video, she was bashing Carney, who was out of Bank of England 2 years before she even became a Prime Minister. Not only for her own faults, but for the Brexit, which Carney actually literally went public and warned people about. That it is bad for the English people, British people, bad for the economy, and so on. You're welcome to watch the whole video. They don't even mention in Brexit. And I spent all these years fighting propaganda, especially that kind used by Russian state media and internet trolls. I've studied how emotional manipulation, half-truths, and misrepresented opinions are used to undermine democracy and manipulate public perception. And the pattern is familiar. Emotional headlines. Fake accusations like Carney plagiarized his thesis, a lie disproven by Oxford University, as you can see. And associating him with failures he has nothing to do with, like blaming him for Brexit or Liz Truss' economic collapse. Which, as I said, happened 2 years after Carney even wasn't a leader of the Bank of England. And why exactly I'm calling this video as a hit piece and a lie? Because during the whole video, so-called journalist Lily have never asked her any tough questions, never asked about Brexit, never talked about her personal political decisions. You can Google how many months she was in power. She was kicked out almost immediately. Meanwhile, so you to know, the Bank of England usually hire people for 5 years. Carney stayed not quite 8 years, but over 6, because he was asked to stay and help Britain through the Brexit, which Carney has nothing to do about. Let's set the record straight on Brexit. Mark Carney warned about the economic dangers of Brexit while serving as a governor of the Bank of England. He was not the cause of any Brexit fallout. In fact, he helped stabilize the UK economy in the years leading up to and following the referendum. And Liz Truss, who is just blamed Carney for her government economic disaster, came to power 2 years after Carney has left the Bank of England. Her mini budget and mismanaged tax cuts caused chaos in UK markets, and Carney had no official role at the time. And unlike Liz Truss, Carney served his full term and even more. He wasn't pushed out or discredited. Quite the opposite. He left after completing a term in which he helped steer two G7 economics through the global financial crisis and major political upheaval. Let's talk about Brexit. You're welcome to read the article itself. I just skip to economic effects. On January 11, 2024, the London's Mayor's Office released Mayor highlights Brexit damage to London economy. The release cites that independent report by Cambridge economists that London has almost 300,000 fewer jobs and nationwide 2 million fewer jobs as a direct consequences of Brexit. Brexit is recognized as a key contributor to the 2023 cost of living crisis, with the average citizen being nearly £2,000 worse off, and the average Londoner nearly £3,400 worse off in 2023 as a result of Brexit. In addition, UK real gross value added was approximately £140 billion less in 2023 than it would have been had the UK remained in the single market. And British people, only 2/3 of British people started to understand that. And they're actually asking to rejoin the European Union. This was a polls done, how they said, what do they want. So majority wants to rejoin. This would be extremely difficult to do. And the damage done to the UK is enormous. And Carney warned about it. This is the same Guardian which representative was criticizing in the past Carney, which we just saw in National Post. This is what Carney said. Brexit is a risk to US growth. And another one. Oh, this is done by BBC. Mark Carney, EU exit is biggest domestic risk. I'll show you a piece of the video.
The issue is the biggest domestic risk to financial stability. because in part of the issues around uncertainty, but
So
also
is it-
if I may just finish quickly, because it has the potential, depending on how it's prosecuted and how these issues can be addressed, to amplify risks around the current account has been discussed, potential risks around housing, potential risks around market functioning, which we're trying to mitigate.
Carney warned about that the value of pound will go down, the jobs can be lost, and the economy will go down. So the fact is, during the Brexit referendum, Carney warned calmly with data that leaving the EU could cause serious economic damage. Currency drops, inflation spikes, slowed growth. He wasn't fear-mongering, he was right. Much of what he forecasted came true. But when things go badly, facts are not always welcome. Carney became a target for calling out risks before they hit. Sound familiar? And this is, he wrote about it would be good for the Britain to stay within European Union,
saying it would improve competitiveness and reinforce the positive impact of EU membership. The list of reasons for staying in the EU was a long one, so long that MPs that back Britain leaving the EU revealed their displeasure.
The statements you make about the dynamism of the economy could just as well refer to the reforms introduced by Margaret Thatcher. It is speculative and beneath the dignity of the Bank of England to be making speculative pro-EU comments.
I'm not going to let that stand.
Not stand indeed, Mr. Carney making it clear there could also be dangers remaining in a single market.
We're saying membership of the European Union brings risks as well, and the principal risks, I should say, because there are more than one, are associated with the unfinished business of European Monetary Union.
And fast forward, former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss, who helped crush the economy with her own policies, then blamed Carney in an interview with the Toronto Sun, and has not been challenged on any of this what she was saying. And this is not the only hit piece. Toronto Sun and Lily came out with a whole bunch of other things. Oh boy. The whole page. And more. Lily, Carney continues to lie his way through campaign. Wow. And another one. Evil Carney. So this is why whatever they're doing is a hit piece. It's organized and paid for by Americans, by the Republican Party, trying to influence Canadian election. I rest my case. You saw the proofs. So exactly how you're doing research on any other candidate, you're welcome to read the whole page on achievements of Mark Carney, of his education, of his financial career, and what he actually done. I don't see any candidates so far who has as impressive record in economy, in finances, education-wise, or work-wise. I do not see anybody as competent as Mark Carney, who actually has experience creating and building actual businesses who actually works in real life economy. He wrote a book and now writing another one, so he is an author. And in response to those who asked me about his book on values, I didn't read the book, I read parts of it and seen a video of him about this book. But this book was written in 2021. Since then, 4 years has passed. We are in economic war with the United States. So, normal, smart human being will change his positions on some things and do things wisely. At the same time, I want to point out to those who were saying about Brookfield management and so on, you are welcome to find out on this too. There was some criticism about that and some stuff Carney retracted later and this and that, but the point is, it's a successful corporation who actually Canadian multinational company and one of the world's largest alternative investment management companies. And the fact that he moved one of the headquarters into the United States was decided way before Donald Trump was even been in power. People who has never done anything before, people who doesn't have a clue how the companies operate. Just remember how long it took for you to change your postal code or your address. How much preparation and hassle it takes. Do you think that moving somebody's headquarters across the border, it's an easy thing to do? It has to be planned months, if not years in advance, to be able to achieve it. And it happened in December, I think 2024, when Trump wasn't even president yet. He didn't insult Canada, he didn't install tariffs or anything like that. As to the Bill C-69, which somebody called anti-pipeline bill and this and that, you read the bill itself and you will find out what it is about. It's not about anti-pipelines, it's about some restrictions and new rules and this and that, which some critics might say that it will make it more difficult. But again, the situation changed. And now it could be changed, it could be improved, it could be this, it could be that. It's a speculation at best. And this is what Mark Carney is saying about pipelines right now.
It's about getting, yes, pipelines built across this country so that we can displace imports of foreign oil. It's about building out the energy infrastructure more broadly here in Alberta, which I would add would include projects such as the pathways.
You are welcome to watch this video for yourself. My point is, I'm not blaming conservative party or their leader in attacks on Mr. Carney, because I have no proofs of that whatsoever, but I do blame American interference. And this is why I stand up for Mr. Carney, and I think conservatives should back me up, or any other party, because this is interference in Canadian election. And it doesn't benefiting anyone. It's hurting actually the position of conservatives, in my opinion, especially if they will back up all that fake stories. Include Mr. Poilievre, who is saying that Carney was an advisor, like it sounds like the advisor to Trudeau, which in fact he was one of the informal advisors. This is a big difference between one of the many informal advisors and being the main advisor who advised Trudeau. I don't have any love lost for Trudeau. I didn't vote for him ever because he didn't have a clue about economy. And whatever I heard today from Mr. Poilievre, I'll show you. So watching this, you will clearly understand who is Lily and Toronto Sun is endorsing. They endorsing Pierre Poilievre. And providing pieces of his speech, which is blah, blah, blah. Exactly what Justin Trudeau did. I'll give you this, I'll look after families, I'll look after people with low income, and this and that. In the end, as Carney entered Canadian political conversations, he is facing similar smears that he was facing before, during Brexit, for example, and often from the same kinds of sources that pushed conspiracy theories about Brexit, COVID, and Trump. Donald Trump, he lied to American people. He clearly told them that, oh, I'll make America great again. At the time when America was the greatest country in the world, #1 economy. And in 3 months, less than 3 months of his presidency, because of his stupid tariff wars and stupid economic ideas, he ruined America into the ground. And not just America, the whole world, basically. I'll make another video on America, not gonna stack and not gonna connect them to, for example, Conservative Party. But my point is, if you propose to do something, how are you gonna do it? I want to see the money. I want to see how exactly you will do what you propose. Where the money is coming from. This is what Jeffrey Sachs, if I pronounce his name right, said. He is an economist and professor at Columbia University about Donald Trump and his policies. He cautioned Americans about danger when the country ruled by one man rule, who is ruling United States right now by emergency decrees. When you will watch the video, you will find out what I'm talking about. This is what he has to say.
Because when he did this, in 2 days, the world lost $10 trillion of market capitalization. By the way, where did it go? Did it get transferred from here to here? No, it got destroyed. Why destroyed? Because trade, something also the President of the United States doesn't understand, is mutually beneficial. So if you stop trade, Everybody loses. It's not that one side wins, the other side loses. He cannot understand that concept as a guy that traded real estate in New York.
My point is about populism. It's about when you elect incompetent people who know nothing about how the economy operates, how the real companies in the real world operates, how to build something, instead of just blah, blah, blah and fight each other. This is what happens. This is how it happened during Brexit. This is what happened when USSR collapsed, because they broke the ties between all the 15 republics of the country. It collapsed. Russia is facing default right now, not stagflation, not recession, bloody default. This is what 23 years of Putin's power as a dictator give us. This is what happens to the dictatorships. Name one which is profitable. Zero. This is what United States and Trump exactly admired. This is what he tried to do. This is what happens when populism wins. This is what happens when America first, Britain first, Japan first, Russia first happens. The Canadian election is ongoing. It's too early to say whether Mark Carney will become Prime Minister, but he's not just sitting back. He's actively defending Canada in the face of Trump's trade war. His exceptional experience gives us insight into what's happened to one of America's largest trading partners, friends and allies, Canada, and how it could impact not only the US and Canada, but the entire global economy. Part of that Trump's wars has already impacted global economy. If you want a video which showed you what Carney stands for, in it Carney explains clearly and calmly how tariffs, trade wars and economic instability affect all of us, Americans and Canadians alike. Make no mistake, it was the United States under Trump that started the tariff war. Trump signed USMCA trade agreement and called it a great deal. Now he's backing out, imposing new tariffs, hurting Americans and Canadian workers and businesses, and harming not only the US and Canadian economies, but the global economy as well. And Carney's message? Policies based on slogans, not strategy, will backfire. Tariffs might sound tough, but they hit consumers and small businesses hardest. So in the end, it's not about winning a trade war. There is no winners in the trade war. It's about not starting one in the first place. Bottom line, we did not pick this fight, but we will defend ourselves. Canada always does. As we head towards election in Canada, thanks to Trump's tariffs war, edged towards stagflation and recession, let's make critical thinking a priority again. Ask where the information comes from. Look at the evidence, and don't confuse political spin with economic reality. Carney spoke the truth during Brexit. He was heavily criticized for that. He is doing it again now, and the world should be listening. Another thing what triggers me, with modern-day conservatives, for example, and not just them, we don't need populists. We don't need Trump-style politics. We don't need leaders who exploit fear, division, and disinformation. And, for example, that fear-mongering, oh boy, Canada is unsafe. What are we gonna do now? I live in Canada. I can go out of my home and go for a walk or a bike ride anytime, day and night. I was doing it for over 20 years and doing it all the time. I never felt threatened. I never felt unsafe. I never had a problem whatsoever. So all that fear-mongering, which is work for populists and for people like Trump, who is trying to scare American people, your economy is not good. Economy of the United States was the envy of the world at the time that Trump took it. In 3 months, he ruined it to the ground. This is what happened when fear, instead of brain and analysis and research, guiding people during the elections and votes. When some politicians, I'm not saying about Canadian politicians just now, I'm talking about Trump and Russia, they literally bluntly lie to you in the face. I have seen that before, and I've seen where it's going. And this is exactly what happened. I have warned Americans, they didn't listen. So, look what happened in UK after populism. Look at US under Trump, whose slogan America First resulted in isolation, global instability, And now is stagflation, a dangerous mix of high inflation and stagnant growth. So rising prices with no wage growth or job creation. This is why populism is dangerous. This is why I believe we must be vigilant, well-informed, and resist propaganda. History showed us that democratic cooperation, not isolation, creates prosperity. Authoritarian regimes like Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, Hungary might look strong, but they are not successful models of human development. None of them match the freedom, innovation, or prosperity of democratic countries. I have lived in two dictatorships, in the USSR and Russia. I could never compare them to the wonderful life in Canada. When I came to Canada, I was astonished how well Canadians built their country. We are one of the last resorts because in the North America, because Trump basically creating a dictatorship in the United States. They are not a free country anymore. They are not our friend. They are our enemy right now because they want to attack us and take away our freedoms. And they already did with the economic war. This is just the first stage of it. Despite my love to all the Americans, American people are good people, and they are protesting right now against this. They are already on the streets protesting against Trump policies and against the attacks of Canada. Many of them told me that if it push come to shove, they will support Canada in it, not the United States, not Trump. So I hope for the best for them that they will do something about it before it's too late. Remove him from power, and so on. And the last thing we need is to elect a populist in Canada. And I'm not saying it's necessarily conservatives. Anybody who is promoting division, fear, and other lies. Canada is a safe and decent country. And I hope it will stay that way. This is why it's more important than in over 20 years that I have been in Canada to stay united, to do the research, and do our best to preserve Canada, its independence, values, and freedom. I don't know what kind of Prime Minister Mr. Carney will be. And I believe no one does yet. But here's what I do know. He is the most competent and experienced voice on economic issues in this race. He helped Canada recover from 2008 crisis and guided the UK through Brexit uncertainty. He warned the public honestly, not like politicians such as Nigel Farage or Trump, who lied to their people to serve their own ambitions. And unlike some, like for example Mr. Poilievre, who has been a career politician since like 16 years old, with little real-world economic experience, outside of working as a paperboy or for TELUS, Mr. Carney has a global track record of actually running institutions that protect people's savings, jobs, and future. I know my fellow Canadians. I was always impressed with their critical thinking that they happen to be born with, so I have no worries about what will happen because I know Canadians will make a right choice. All I'm doing, just providing the facts and information which can help them to do so. Thank you for watching. Learn the truth and stay informed. See you later.